Hey, hey, hey. Hey, guys. Welcome to another live stream. All right. I know there's a delay, so I'm just going to let you guys pile on in. Yeah. So I said I was going to do a part two. Said I was going to do a part two to this Game of Thrones thing where I went through the characters and how they declined. But I can't see the chat now, so I got to wait a little bit for the delay to fix itself. And then I'll let everybody know how I am sounding. Because I don't have my camera. I totally forgot it. My internet's fixed. I got good internet right now, but I forgot my camera. I'm actually over a friend's house, actually, so I can't say my internet's fixed. I have good internet now, is the point. All right, guys. Let me know how I am sounding. You sound great, they are saying. I'm seeing everybody. Jasmine Whitby, thanks for being a member, Jasmine. And you can totally hit the join button and become a member. You get like badges and emojis and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, it thrones, it thrones. Let's just... So we did a stream last week on how Game of Thrones ruined every character, but we covered like Dany and like Bronn and Arya, but there was a few characters that we didn't cover, and we know that it's endless. You know, the level of destruction that Game of Thrones committed against George R. R. Martin's work is legendary at this point and well known. But just give me a second to get this set up so I can just have something visual on the screen for you guys. Here, here's this weird picture of Jon Snow. I'll just share screen, application window, that one, share. So there we go. Yeah, I guess we can talk about Jon Snow, actually. So since we ended the last stream kind of like talking about Dany and talking about that crazy decline in Dany's character and how they just took Dany from like literally presenting her as a messiah with like the sweeping messianic music and all this stuff to just like literally a psychopath in like 2 days, 2 episodes, right? But let's talk about Jon Snow, because Jon Snow was also destroyed as a character, but it's a lot less dramatic than Dany's turn. It just creeps up on you. And a lot of these like progressions from like good character to bad character creeps up on you throughout Game of Thrones. Travis McMillan, thank you so much for becoming a new member. But the reason I think that is, can you like take her bell off? Yeah. The reason that I think that is because you start off with the very like baseline George R. R. Martin character. Not that you start off with a baseline. So George R. R. Martin's amazing characters. They're well-rounded. There is a tremendous amount of source material to back them up. We know who they are. But then slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly, less and less of it becomes the work of George R. R. Martin, and more and more of it becomes the work of D&D, David and Dan. I know a lot of you actually hate it when I say D&D because D&D is Dungeons and Dragons. So when I say D&D, I'm talking about David Benioff and Dan Weiss, those guys, the creators, quote unquote creators of the Game of Thrones show, HBO guys. All right, so as they put more of themselves into Game of Thrones and took more of George R. R. Martin out of Game of Thrones, the characters gradually became worse and worse and worse and worse because they simply are not as interesting as George R. R. Martin, right? So Jon Snow is an interesting one. When does Jon Snow start being bad as a character exactly? I would say that it happens. It definitely starts. I think somewhere around season 5, and a lot of the problems start around season 5. Continues, but it gets worse. It gets dramatically worse after Jon Snow is resurrected, right? So we all know that at the end of A Dance with Dragons, Jon Snow is stabbed a bunch of times. Like there's a mutiny. Someone attacks the giant, and they use that as a way to get Jon Snow there so they can stab him, and his last words go. So we know he gets assassinated. So they didn't have a quote unquote they didn't have, I guess, the written source material for what happens after John. They only had George R. Martin's instructions, and they had their lack of talent. So what we get such a hack job scene with the resurrection, guys. Like literally every fan theory about how the resurrection was going to happen was better than what D&D did. Like almost every single one. And also, hey, Gray Area, what's up? What's up, Gray Area? See you there. Thanks so much, Wisdom Minari, for your super chat. Thanks so much. And super chats are great, guys. There's so many ways you can support this channel. You can join by clicking the membership button. You can subscribe. You can Patreon. One of the awesome new ways that I have is PayPal, because that doesn't like take a fee like YouTube does. But anyway, let's talk about like the resurrection though. Literally every fan theory for how that resurrection was supposed to happen was better, right? Every fan theory. So it seems in the book almost certain that Jon Snow is inside of Ghost. Like George R. Martin opens A Dance with Dragons with the Varamir Six Skins chapter, right? So he's setting up, possession and the second life, and that, when a skin changer dies, they live a second life inside of the animal. And then Jon Snow's last word is Ghost. So it's very, 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 very obvious that Jon Snow is inside Ghost. It's very obvious. So I don't understand why they couldn't even do that, right? So look, and the reason that I'm even more incredulous about it too is because I've had the idea for a long time. Nothing is easy in George R. R. Martin's world as far as magic goes. So if Jon Snow's inside of Ghost and what we need is to get him out of Ghost and back into his body, one of the potential ways that could happen is Ghost would have to die, right? And it would be awful and it would be terrible and sad, but it would make sense. So if the show was already going to do this thing where they weren't even going to use the dire wolves, and it makes no sense that the dire wolves aren't, like, it made no sense that Ghost wasn't at the Battle of the Bastards. So if they knew they were going to do that, why not kill Ghost there and make the ritual just that much more interesting instead of having it just be Melisandre washes Jon Snow's body and says some words. She's a fire priestess, but the ritual, there's no fire. There's no fire? Fire priestess? No fire during the ritual to bring back Jon Snow? It is one of the most uninspired things I have ever seen. Like, this is not a ritual. This is not what a ritual is. Like, if you look up any if you study like magical practitioners or study like pagan rites or Wiccan rites or any of that, it's a lot more complicated than simply than this. And you would think that a rite to bring somebody back from the dead would require more than just like, let's give him a nice haircut and let's wash his body a little bit. Like, what is happening here? This is a fantasy show, but like suck out all the fantasy for some reason. And in ways where it's like, you can think in 2 seconds, how can we inject more fantasy, but then also fit the narrative and also fit the limits of the show? Like, if we're going to scale back on the dire wolves, I mean, it would be sad, but like they're okay with doing sad stuff. They're okay with hurting us. I mean, they ruined Daenerys in a messed up way, so kill Ghost. I mean, you gave Summer, Bran's dire wolf, a ridiculous, pointless, instant death for no reason, out of nowhere. You just killed Summer in like 2 seconds, and there's no emotion, nothing. I mean, it's very, 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 very annoying. Whitney Mo Russo, I can't say. I'm bad at pronouncing names. You all know it. Says there's no blood magic, even Melisandre ritual. Exactly. There's nothing interesting about it at all. Like, you'll get more interesting rituals on the most baseline. You'll get more interesting rituals on freaking Wizards of Waverly Place on Disney Channel or something. I don't know. But yeah. Look, Peter Griffin, exactly. The Mirri Maz Duur ritual was so much better. That is a great example. Take the Mirri Maz Duur ritual from season 1 and compare it to the Jon Snow ritual. And that was just a ritual to like keep Drogo alive. Like, you have to sacrifice a horse and the blood spills all over the place. And it's like, and shadows dancing and the singing and like the moving shadows. Oh God, it's so unbelievably cool and interesting and terrifying, right? What George R. Martin was playing with in that scene, which was done well for the show because it was season one, what he's playing with, the reason that Danny steps outside of the tent and you only see the shadows, because like, like George R. Martin says, the idea of what is going on in a tent is much more terrifying than anything we could ever actually be shown. So to see like the shadows dance and all the queer shapes and all these numerous different forms, so terrifying. And it was adapted pretty well for the show. And it was interesting, at least in the show, because, George R. Martin understands what makes stuff like this interesting. But then fast forward 6 seasons later, and it's hair washing, give him a bath, say a few words, and he wakes up dramatically. And it's really, 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 really lame. Really lame. Yeah, I agree. Gendry even had a better ritual with the leeches and the fire. And again, that's George R. Martin. So after the ritual, Jon Snow wakes up and he just, like, Jon Snow was always mopey, but he just becomes the most pathetic character ever, right? Like, he's so inconsistent. Let's take the Battle of the Bastards. And like Jon Snow, first of all, okay, so I forget what happened. So they're on the battlefield, they've got the plan, right? You got to follow the plan. That's what you always follow the plan, right? And also, they've also established too that when you die and you're brought back, you're kind of like, you lose a bit of yourself a little bit. So I guess they kind of maybe thought about that a little bit, but then just didn't know what to do with it. And losing a little bit of yourself doesn't mean total inconsistency. But let's get back to the Battle of the Bastards scene. So Ramsay's got Rickon, which, by the way, so sad. No, let's segue real quick before we get into that. Real quick. So sad what they did to the character Osha and Rickon, right? Because it's so funny that like Osha was so cool in those early seasons, because she's like a little bit different from the book counterpart, like as far as the look and everything and the way she like moves around. Osha was so cool that George R. Martin said that the show version of Osha inspired the way he wrote Osha and the later books, like in the Winds of Winter and stuff. That's how cool Osha in early on in the show was, right? So it's a shame that literally one of the best characters in the show that was actually different from the book character that George R. Martin liked enough to like actually change his book counterpart character, that they just kill her immediately. She's back and they're just like, nope, whatever, we don't care about you. We don't have any respect for any of this. Where have you been? I don't care. Kill her. And then Shaggy Dog as well. Such a, like, the one wolf that should have died was Ghost, and it would have made sense. Why? But move on. Let's get back onto the stupidity of Jon, and you probably know where I'm getting to if you remember this scene. So you got like the stupid, unbelievably stupid Battle of the Bastards scene where Rickon is like running in a straight. Why do these people always run in a straight line? It is like such a bad movie trope, like Prometheus, like the ship is falling and you're running in a straight line. Zigzag, freaking zigzag. I don't understand it. All right. And so you got Jon Snow taking the bait. And then after he fails to save Rickon, he charges the army and messes up the entire plan. Charges the army. Messes up the entire plan. Why did you do that? Oh, you're so... You mean to tell me Jon Snow is so overcome with emotion that, like, I guess I'll die now? Like, what was the plan? I take down everybody myself? But here's the rule with Game of Thrones, though. Here's the rule that you figure out after like watching the seasons. As long as it looks cool, it's okay. It just has to look cool, and that's it. That's all they care about. It doesn't have to make sense. Like, it looks cool to have Jon Snow be standing one man in front of the army. it looks cool. Um, it looks cool to be like on the island in the middle of like the frozen lake and have it make no sense and have like 12 guys taking out all the way. It all looks so freaking cool, but does it make sense? No. All right. And fantasy starts to suck when it doesn't make sense. That's what makes fantasy so like it's not even. But see, here's the thing too. It's not just like the magic and the fantasy elements of Game of Thrones that don't make sense. I do a lot of criticizing of like their fantasy stuff that doesn't make sense because they hate fantasy clearly and they don't understand it and they don't respect it. So I do a lot of criticizing of that, but it's not just that. It's like everything in Game of Thrones that ends up not making sense, right? So yeah, that just there when Jon Snow did that, that was really stupid. Like the Battle of Ice sequence itself was epic, obviously, because it looks cool. When it comes to a battle, it just needs to look cool, right? And then making sense comes second. But like Game of Thrones is supposed to be the show that has like the really cool looking stuff and also the really good story and the really good and all the awesome realism. I just can't, I just don't see it. And so moving on after all that happens. So after literally after the Battle of the Bastards, I said this on the other stream, right? Can somebody tell me a single interesting thing that Jon Snow says or really even does, honestly, after like season 6? Something that stands out to you? A cool thing that Jon Snow said or did that wasn't totally like aesthetic and just like it being just like them just manufacturing a badass looking moment? Can somebody figure out one? Because to me, Jon Snow becomes one of the blandest characters in the entire show after after that. Like he's one of the most boring characters, period. Like it's just like he doesn't have any lines. There's nothing interesting about him. Like it's like, and it's sad because this is Jon Snow. This is one of our, this is like one of our heroes, man. This is the guy that we're supposed to be rooting for. Real War is boring though. If you had dragons in real life, you only use them like every once. Yeah, but who wants to watch a boring show? That's the thing. I get like we don't see it, when you watch a movie. You don't see like 5 hours. They don't spend the first hour of the movie cleaning their house because yeah, real life. If you have a house, so you got to clean it. Real life is boring. No, that's not how it works. When you're writing a story, yes, you have to make it entertaining. You make it. The whole point of like art and stories and movies and media like this is to be entertaining. And then also, if it's good, it should also make sense, right? I don't know. But like moving on. So Jon Snow, yeah, just becomes a very, very boring, milquetoast and weak character. Just very, 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 very weak. Like the Lyanna Mormont scene was like when Lyanna Mormont, the little girl, is like giving Jon like the talk, like we're not gonna help. Why should we help you? Jon Snow can't even come up with a reason. Like why does Davos have to step in? Like Jon Snow, you were the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Like tell the little girl what's up. Why do you need Davos? And that's another thing too. Davos is cool, but we don't need Davos to constantly step in to defend people that he barely knows, right? Davos barely knows Jon Snow. And he's like, Jon Snow is the best man I've ever met. You should definitely fight for like what? But anyway, so yeah, all that's stupid. And that's also when they start like randomly mentioning the Night King suddenly as a name. And they're suddenly acting like they've always said the name Night King, and that's been an established part of the lore up until that point when it hasn't. It's only ever been external to the show. But yeah, they interject that in there. But yeah, all the Jon Snow so unbelievably weak as a character and as like, oh my goodness. Yeah, but he becomes like so sidelined. The only time they really make Jon Snow do anything is when he's like picking up a sword. That's the only time when he's like interesting or captivating. It's like they forgot or never really understood why people actually connected with him as a character and as a real person. There's so many of us that connected with Jon Snow, the outcast, Jon Snow, the bastard, Jon Snow, the one that wants to know who his mother is and feels alone in the world. There were a lot of us that connected with that character, and that character stopped existing in exchange for this like cardboard cutout. And I just don't get it. I just don't get why they did it. Well, I do get why they did it. It's because they didn't know what they were doing. Let's just leave it at that. Looks like we got a super chat from Wisdom Minari. Thanks so much for your super chat. Super chats are always helpful. You can also donate through PayPal, link in the description. Why didn't Jon Snow tell Lyanna that Rickon, who is a Stark, is captive? Yeah. There's no reason. There's no reason for any of this. It's like you guys ask me these questions, and it's like the only thing that I can come up with is that they just didn't care enough to think about it. Right. And here's the thing with D&D that I want to stress always with these guys, David and Dan, right? Because people give them breaks, and we shouldn't be giving them breaks on this, because they were pressured by HBO multiple points in time to hire more writers. HBO said, we will throw money at you. We will give you the money that you need. Just hire more people. They consistently said no. They consistently said, no, we're not going to hire more people. They hired Cogman and write a few episodes. But they do that. And then on top of that, they complained the entire 8 seasons Game of Thrones was on about having too much work. They complained about not being able to stretch it out to 12 seasons because it'd be too much work to write it. They consistently complained. They consistently said it was too much work for them, specifically them. So instead of utilizing the resources that HBO was offering to you to make Game of Thrones as good as it can be, it became about their own hubris. It became about their vanity. And it became George R. Martin's story isn't awesome. We're awesome. Game of Thrones is the biggest show in the world because we're awesome. And you can see that play out throughout their, like, as they continue to do those little behind the scenes clips after every episode, they gradually become more and more pretentious, to the point where around season 4, I just couldn't even watch them anymore, because they would start saying things like, though this occurs in the book, we thought it made narrative sense to change it to this, that, and that. And I'm like, wait, but like, what about all these interviews that you gave after season 1, where you were saying that you were determined to adapt George R. Martin's story to the small screen, that you were determined to adapt A Song of Ice and Fire, and that you were pretty sure that you could do it? What happened to all that? Now it's about what you think makes narrative sense versus what's already written in the books that are critically acclaimed and beloved, and some of the best-selling, best reviewed fantasy books out there, most gritty and most realistic ones. Oh, but you thought it made narrative sense because the guys that wrote Wolverine, that wrote the worst X-Men movie, Wolverine Origins, I don't know which one of them did it. The guys that did Troy, which, like, that Troy is another example of a movie. I think it was either Benioff or Weiss. I don't know which one. But it's another example of a movie where it's like, costumes, great. Sets, great. Acting, pretty good. Script, throw it in the trash. So it was, the script, throw it in the trash. And that's basically what those last few seasons of Game of Thrones are as well. Script, throw it in the trash. And it's sad. It's absolutely sad when you have people HBO offering, being like, we will give you the help that you need if you just would please take it. Please take it. But they didn't, because they are jerks. All right. So we talked about Jon Snow and Dany's relationship in the last video in the context from Dany's perspective. But let's talk about this terrible Jon Snow-Dany relationship from Jon Snow's perspective, right? So it's like Jon Snow. See, it's so hard to talk about, because it's like, what do they have in common? Like, actually a lot. See, that's the thing. That's why it's hard to talk about, because they actually do have a lot in common. But the show shows us none of it, right? Like I said in the other stream, they're both outcast. They're both separate from the rest. They both there's a lot of like similar elements to all their stories, parallel elements. They do have a lot in common, but the show shows us None of that. They completely destroy these characters. And just for Dany as like such a powerful character as well, to like her identity is reduced down to being in love with Jon Snow by the end, basically. Which is like, what are you even in love with? They destroyed her as a character. But nice little segue if we want to segue into something else. Real quick, if you want a story that doesn't totally destroy female characters, then you should totally get on my campaign, Tadia, which has launched. Tadia, my Indiegogo campaign has launched, and we are doing pretty good right now. So, oh god, the stupid mouse. I'm gonna show it to you guys real quick while we're here. So yeah, you can see we're like at 18. We're over 18,000. We're at 422 backers right now. Guys, one thing that would be super cool with this is if we could get it to like 20,000 by the end of tonight. Yeah, so I just want to show you guys the campaign real quick, and we will totally get right back into like Game of Thrones and like Jon Snow and all that jazz and their relationships. So I'll just show you guys my tiers and stuff real quick. So there's been like 10 of the early bird ones claimed. There's only 65 of them left, so you can get that one if you want. But yeah, the digital copy of Tadia, totally low price point. You can get a digital copy for like $10. That was really important. I wanted it to be super low so anybody can just get it. Same with the paperback copy, 15. And then if you want to go all out and support, signed copy, $30. And there's hardcover, obviously 50, and signed hardcovers and more bundles up there. And it looks like, actually, I want to thank too my top Patreon, Trini Girl, for purchasing the first Be in the Book tier, which is like amazing because the Be in the Book tier is like $1,000. It's not cheap, and that's amazing. So you get drawn in the book and you get all these perks here. So it's awesome that you join the Be in the Book tier. That's amazing, amazing, amazing. So Tadia, I am so happy and just so gracious to all of you guys that have donated and supported. It's only been on for a day. This is the second day, and we're almost up to 20,000. We're over 422 backers. Tadia is on the front page of Indiegogo. It was #1 on Indiegogo from like the beginning of yesterday. We're absolutely killing it. So we are the #1 comic out. We're like the #1 or like the #2 creative work. A new one just came out today, so it like took our spot for a little bit. We'll get back up there. You guys can help me get back up there. So I just wanted to interject real quick and just say thanks to everyone that's donated. Please, 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 please share the link. It helps so much to share it with all your friends, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, anywhere that you can to help get this out. I love you guys so much. And again, thanks Trini Girl so much for getting one of those top tiers. And thanks everybody that has donated. And like I said, you can get those totally like low tiers. You can get the digital. What's cool about the digital copy too is that that'll come out before the paperbacks and the hardcovers because it doesn't have to ship. So if you get a digital copy, or if you get a digital copy along with the paperback, then like you'll get to read the story before like everyone else does. So that's super cool. And there's also an audio copy that you can get once you get like the book into. You can select that tier as well. But let's get back. Thanks everyone for listening to my segue. Please go check out the campaign. Link in the description. Help us get our backers up and help us like make this happen. We've already hit our first stretch goal. Everyone gets free bookmarks, and yeah, it's awesome. Thanks, guys. But let's get back to Jon Snow and the shittiness of Game of Thrones. But first, let's get this super chat. Jon Snow started to annoy me when he continued to screw up and receive praise. Why would Jon Snow be a good king? Good point. Good point, right? Jon Snow couldn't even heed Melisandre's advice and not get killed, right? I mean, book Jon Snow, there's another thing. But yeah, show Jon Snow, it's like, you made a lot of really terrible decisions and then got praised for it. I mean, Sansa brought the Lord to the Vale. Sansa saved the day in the end. Whereas Jon Snow jeopardized the entire battle. Jon Snow jeopardized everything. If it was not for Sansa, Jon Snow would be done. So yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. Bridget Walsh, thank you so much for your super chat. And thanks everyone that leaves a super chat. Thanks everyone that hits me up on PayPal. That's always super appreciated. And thanks everyone that donates and comments and likes and subscribes and all that jazz. Bridget Walsh, what would you have shown to build John and Danny's relationship? Because it was so fast, D&D did a poor job. Love the work. Well, you see, that's the thing. You really need multiple seasons to build something like that. They tried to do it in 6 episodes. Like, so Jon Snow gets to Dragonstone, and they try to build up this romance in a few episodes. And it's, well, what I would have done would be to have shown their similarities, to bond over the fact that they've been isolated, and never really had, like, Jon Snow never had a mother, Danny never had a mother. There's so much that they can bond over. They can bond over their similar situations and being put in power at such young ages. They're both just like thrust into positions of power at very young ages, and having to like make decisions for like thousands and thousands of people, and make these really, really difficult moral decisions kind of on the go. Do I let the wildlings through? What do I do about these sick and dying on the outside of Meereen? There's actually like a really cool parallel in one of the books where it's like you see the Jon Snow chapter and you've got the wildlings outside, and then we see the Dany chapter and you've got the people from Astapor on the outside of the gates of Meereen. So it's like a direct parallel that George R. Martin's doing. So just so many ways. Show that, give them some more intimate moments that make more sense and not just like lust eyes. Like, come on. And it's also like the fact that like Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington seem to have no chemistry on camera. I mean, I'm not trying to knock either one of them as like actors, although I haven't really seen either one of them in anything outside of Game of Thrones. But it's like they don't really have any chemistry on set. So yeah, that's another thing that kind of like hurts it as well and makes it less believable. So Wisdom Minari says, thank you for your super chat again. Why did the Vale people with larger army not have bigger voice in northern politics? God, I missed scheming. Yeah. I don't know. I think it. Well, see Sansa was shady. I gotta say this. In the show, Sansa was being a little shady because she didn't tell Jon Snow about the Knights of the Vale, and Littlefinger did offer to help early on, so she was being kind of shady. So, and Littlefinger had come into power, so he was manipulating things wherever and all that jazz. So I guess that one is a little bit more complicated, but yeah, at the same time, yeah, noted. You're right too. So Daniel, thank you so much. Super sticker. Thanks for getting a sticker. Awesome sauce. So, who else are we going to talk about? Yeah, Jon Snow. He's bad. He's not good. We don't like him. I'll just put Tadia up right here so everyone, just to have it there. So, yeah. Let me pull up my list to see what else I had on here. So yeah, Jon Snow bad. Let's talk about Tyrion now. Tyrion. What can be said about Tyrion? Let's talk about like a fan favorite character that just went absolutely straight into the toilet bowl. It is so sad what they did to Tyrion. It is so sad how useless Tyrion ends up being. So like Tyrion starts off as one of the wittiest, coolest characters in all the Game of Thrones. Anytime Peter Dinklage is on screen, we are loving it. Best lines, just like best scenes. We live for him slapping Joffrey. We live for him like telling off Cersei. We love it all. Even like the interactions between Tyrion and Cersei in like season 2 of Game of Thrones, all that stuff was good. Even when they added scenes with Tyrion, it was good. But it was so much of it, the huge bulk of it was George R. R. Martin's writing. All the good stuff with Tyrion was always George R. R. Martin. Like that moment when Tyrion is giving that speech and he's saying, I wish I was the monster that you think I am. When he says that, all that's George R. Martin. All of it was. Every single bit of it. That's what made Tyrion awesome. And when they stopped doing it, when they started saying things like, I don't know if this George R. Martin idea is good enough. I don't know if we should go there. Then it got crappy, right? So Tyrion goes on a very dark turn after Dance. He gets very dark. He's not. There's something about him changes. There's a shift after he kills his own father and kills the woman that he loves, who he finds out didn't really love him, which is why it's like way better in the show, because she never loved him. So like, yeah, she finds out because she's like in the bed with his father, basically. So yeah, that breaks him. And then also on top of that, he finds out that the woman that really loved him, he'd been lied to about her his entire life, basically, and that she really did love him, and that she wasn't a sex worker like he'd been told by Jaime. So on top of all that, he hates Jaime, he hates Cersei, he hates his whole family. He has a vendetta against like all House Lannister, basically. So it's very, very, very dark. And there's a specific scene too where it's like, it's really like you see how much they're trying to like wash him down and water down Tyrion. It's the scene in the brothel, basically, where you have the sex worker, and Tyrion's like, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to. In the book, Tyrion does what he does, and it's like, it's awful. But this is what happened. This is the darkness this is how dark this character has gotten. Where in the show they were too afraid to do that because they're afraid of, oh, what if no one likes Tyrion? But that's the thing. You shouldn't be concerned about whether a character is like liked, as in like, I love that little short guy. It's about whether the character is good and realistic and interesting and develops in an interesting way. And that's what they didn't realize. So once they took away that element of him, that darkness, he became very boring and not smart. And we will get to that in just a second, how not smart Tyrion is. God, I did a video a while ago, like, Tyrion is so dumb now, because he just is. Where's my phone? So yeah, Tyrion is so dumb. So basically, yeah, everything Tyrion every bit of advice that Tyrion ever gave to Daenerys was wrong, which I think is really, really funny, because we spend so much time like thinking like, oh, we can't wait till Tyrion gets with Dany. He knows so much about King's Landing and the inner workings and how things work out there. He'll help her out a lot. But he ended up, it's like what happened to the Tyrion that planned the defense of King's Landing? What happened to the Tyrion from the book that like charged out in the vanguard in battle? Oh, they didn't do that in the show. He got hit in the head. Yeah, he didn't do that. He just passed out. They took that away from him as well. They took that away from him early on. And also cool too, one thing they did with Tyrion too that's kind of aesthetic. They did this with every Lannister that wasn't Cersei, right? They made them gradually not blonde, which is like, what? That's totally just like something that you just did for no reason. But yeah. Before we get more into Tyrion, let's get these super chats. I missed some super chats. Thanks, guys, for all the super chats. Who are your top 3 characters you're most bummed they left out of the show from the book? Oh, Quaithe. I mean, she's in the show, but she's not. She's on the show once, so I have to say Quaithe. God dang it, where's Quaithe? Marwyn? Jesus. Marwyn's so freaking cool. Oh my God. I mean, the list is honestly, I mean, if I keep thinking, the list is going to go on and on and on. Patchface is one. That would have been super creepy to have just like at some point. You don't even, if you don't want to use Patchface, keep him around for a little bit. Strong Belwas is an awesome character that they didn't do. The Ghost of Highheart is an awesome character they didn't do. So many like cool fantasy characters, right? Like even in the books, like all the children of the forest have names. Like they didn't even bother giving them names, I think, in the show, other than Leaf maybe. So yeah, just everybody, everybody, honestly. Like George R. R. Martin says, if he didn't think the characters belonged there, he wouldn't have written them. And one more super chat to get to before we move on real quick. I came to sympathize with Sansa, was happy that she got developed, but was pissed how she was developed in the last 2 seasons. The Arya fight and the secrecy were gimmicky and Yeah, out of control. I agree. The development of Sansa, Sansa is. I imagine that Sansa was on a trajectory to be Queen of the North in the book, but the development of it was bad. I agree. So, yeah, Mike is shouting at me in the comments. So I should talk about my graphic novel a little bit, just a little bit again, to tell you about the influences behind it. So there's a few influences behind Tadia, and I see we got a new backer. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're doing really, really good in just 2 days. Really, in under 2 days, basically. So let's talk about the influences. So I got here Neil Gaiman, Stephen King, and George R. R. Martin. Let's talk about how George R. R. Martin influenced Tadia just a little bit. So what I wanted to take from George R. R. Martin when I was writing my graphic novel is basically the way he does his characters. Basically, that's what I wanted to do, and also the way his characters interact with the world. Like it's not just like a crazy, like jarring, like everyone's like levitating and shooting streams of bolts of lightning and fire from their eyes and hands, like Malazan Book of the Fallen or something. It's very grounded. It's really about the characters and they're kind of existing within a seamless fantasy backdrop. So that's what I wanted to do for Tadia. Tadia is my story about witches. And I guess I'll just show you guys the trailer real quick while I'm here. I'll just show it to you. It's only 60 seconds. Let's watch.
Beneath the mother's spear, deep within the forest of Morath, Akate's witches work their strange magic under the cover of night. Quinn Howard and Matthew Eldon bring you a new horror fantasy graphic novel. A young girl born into a noble family, but also into the hands of a manipulative coven. With darkness as their cover, the witches conjured their dark works and brought forth Tadia. But will Tadia be theirs to bend to their will, or have they unknowingly, through their own hubris, unleashed something upon the world which will finally fracture the delicate balance that they have tried desperately for centuries to maintain? Tadia, Book 1, Exordium. Now available for pre-sale on Indiegogo.
Tadia, Exordium. So yeah, so that's my new graphic novel coming out. You can totally back it on Indiegogo. You can totally get a paperback for like 15 bucks. Very low price point. We totally didn't want to charge like $25 for paperback. So yeah, that soundtrack is actually a track by Lucifer Means Lightbringer, actually, and it's on his SoundCloud. You can find it. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but it's one of Lucifer Means Lightbringer's soundtracks. Yeah, thank you guys so much, everyone that's back Tadia, by the way. So yeah, Tadia is my story about witches. It's a very grounded story. It's a contained story. There are some tangential fantasy elements that I have working around, but it's really about the girl Tadia and her being caught in between this crazy happenings between witches coven and a king. She's in the middle of it all. The paperbacks are not black and white. All of these covers will be colored. So we've got 3 variant covers that you can pick from. The Kanan White cover, the Matthew Eldon cover, which has a double cover. It's got a back and a front. And of course, the Mike Miller cover. All of these 3 covers are actually being colored right now. And all of the books are fully colored by Jean-Francois Beaulieu, who is a fantastic colorist. He just had a book published in Image. So it's all in color. And yeah, these are the price points. You can get a signed version. But basically, you want to go with like this paperback version. It's really good. $15. We think it's an awesome deal. We've sold a lot of paperbacks, actually, both signed and not signed. So they're flying off the shelves. I'm really, really excited about this, guys. I'm really, really like happy and proud and just gracious that you guys are supporting the campaign. And it's really, really, really just fantastic. So many ways. But yeah, moving back on. Where were we? The Dragon Demand says, if Tadia is a self-contained story, are you going to set other stories within a shared setting? There's like prequels. There'll be a prequel called The Warlocks of the Mountain, and I've given a few details about that, but like that's a little bit in the future. But let's go back to what we were talking about, which was Game of Thrones, but which character specifically? Tyrion. Yeah. Let's go back to Tyrion. Everybody's favorite dwarf, everybody's favorite witty dwarf. That like everything interesting about that character got stripped away, right? And I think a part of it too was that D&D didn't know how to like build the interesting connections between him and the characters in the East, right? He wasn't connected to any of those characters at all, right? In the same way. So the dynamic was so different from the way it was in King's Landing, where you've got like Cersei and, you know, like Pycelle and Varys and all these characters that he's interacting with in very interesting and funny and awesome and cool ways. But then he gets to the East and it's just like, doesn't really have anything to do, right? I don't really felt like Dany ever really needed Tyrion ever once, right? They didn't really write it in a way that he was useful at all. And even in ways where you suspect that he could be useful, they didn't bother going through with. So he just became like the person that's like, I'm going to tell her to do this, and then it goes wrong, and then she's going to do the more ruthless thing. So but here's the thing too. And then you've got like Tyrion. They did this thing with Tyrion too a lot, where he would just be like walking around in the street with like no guards or anything. Like they did that in like episode 5, literally while Dany was like burning the city and destroying everything. Tyrion is just like walking around. I'm not the imp. I'm not like an extremely recognizable dwarf that everybody in King's Landing knows. And there's plenty of people here that could want me dead or could want to hurt me. But yeah, it didn't even matter. He's just like a lonely trolley dog walking in the street while there's a battle happening. It's like he just did dumb thing after dumb thing, and it's just like boring. He just became such a boring character. It's so sad because it's like most of the characters, that's the story. Most of the characters don't go from being like cool and interesting to like a murderous psychopath like Dany. Most of it happens like the characters go from being interesting to like having like the air just slowly going out of them. And it's like, ugh, why, right? It's like, why? It's like they couldn't be bothered to try and muster up. But see, here's the thing: when why not hire new writers? That's what makes me so incredulous. Why not hire new writers? Why not take the money? Was it I wonder if like it'll come out at some point that it was like HBO would have cut their salary a little bit or cut what they were getting a little bit to hire new writers. I don't think that was the case. I really do think HBO was just like, we'll give you extra money to get new writers, and they just said no. And then, I mean, if you're gonna say no and want to do it yourself, you got to make the characters a little bit more interesting than this. So yeah, all the wind flew out of Tyrion. He didn't do or say anything interesting in the end, and it was just like I was expecting Tyrion to die. I was like, Tyrion is not like you get a more impactful ending out of that character if he dies. But then again, they would have probably killed him in a stupid way. They probably would have killed him in an awful way, right? So that's what's mostly sad about it, like the gradual like sinking into just like from good character to just like generic and mediocre, right? So I think most of them don't go from like good to bad fully. Most of them go from like good to totally generic. Can you go make sure Siona isn't like fucking up your shit? Yeah, because I really hope she's not. Yeah. Yeah. So from good to really, really generic, and that's even sadder to me than something like the Daenerys thing. To some degree, it's even sadder. Yeah. So guys, we're like 1,700 away. We're less than 1,700 away from 20,000 on this campaign. We're doing so well. Like, guys, seriously, if you've got $10 lying around in your account and you just want to see if like my book is terrible or good or not, get the like $10 digital copy, low price point. It's totally worth your time. And also, if you were on the mailing list, you got discounts that you can go check out too. So yeah, what were we just saying? We got a super chat. Random question. Have you ever read Berserk? Seen your love for A Song of Ice and Fire and looking at the pages of Tadia, I think you would really like it. You know, I've never read Berserk, but I've already seen. I know a lot of people have compared Berserk to A Song of Ice and Fire, actually, and a lot of people have told me about Berserk and said you'd like it if you were interested in graphic novels and you like fantasy. And a lot of people actually have been comparing the pages that we've released so far for Tadia to that graphic novel Berserk. So that's super interesting. It's definitely something that I'm interested in checking out for sure. Someone says Varys in the books has very different motives. I don't think he's going to join Dany in the first place. Yeah, Varys's motives in the book involve young Griff, right? So that's another character that they cut out entirely, right? Which makes you there's so many like middle pieces that are totally different. Yeah. So at the end of A Dance with Dragons, Varys shows up again. I believe is it Pycelle's quarters or Sir Kevin's quarters? But yeah, I think it's Pycelle's quarters. So because Varys is in there, Sir Kevin shows up. Pycelle has been murdered, and Varys is there with the crossbow, and he kills Sir Kevin with the crossbow, and he's doing this to sow chaos. Cersei's going to bring the Tyrell, blame Cersei. He just wants Cersei back in power, so that, and for everyone blaming each other for the deaths of these two characters, Sir Kevin especially, to create chaos, so that young Griff can step into place and be super awesome and show up and be epic and amazing and seize the day. So that's the deal with that. So yeah, his motives are totally different. I don't see him going from that to joining Dany in the book. And it's like, it's weird too, because what they did with that was they did it through like one of the worst plot lines. They had Varys show up in Dorne with like Illyria Sand and deliver like Doran Martell's line. I was like, really? So they basically took Doran Martell, who they murdered for no reason in season 6. They took his lines and gave them to the sand snakes, to those crappy sand snakes, and had Varys walk up right at the end and be like, fire and blood. And I'm like, this is lame. This is so lame. You guys are lame. Just stop it. If you're going to like totally change everything, then write your own lines. Like, God. Sandra Clegane says, I was happy when Kevin died. God, he's so boring. Yeah, I wanted Kevin to die in the book too. I was like, yeah, Kevin, screw you. Let's see. Bright Walsh, thanks so much for the super chat. Greatly appreciated. Let's see. Quinn's ideas, but then D&D wouldn't be able to use Tyrion as their voice. Like writers are the most important. Yeah, I agree. So that was the thing they did too in the last season, where they were like, where they were trying to make us like believe that they had always intended Dany to go mad, and that it was like they had set it up properly. So they're all like, every time she burned, we all cheered along. Every time she, so you're saying that like it wasn't a good thing that she like crucified the wise masters? Like when people defend the wise masters to me, I just don't know what you're getting at. I really don't see where you're getting at if you're defending the wise masters. They hung up like 160 children, innocent slave children, and pointed the way to Meereen just as a taunt to Daenerys. And this is a civilization that's built on the backs of slaves. And the reason that Dany relates to slaves is because she was a slave, essentially. She was sold to Drogo by her own brother, basically. So she relates to those people. So of course there's gonna be like of course you're gonna have like the scene where it's like, oh, that was my father, he wasn't one of them. But then again, Tywin burns entire villages of innocent people just to send a message to the lords, right? Dany is a Targaryen. They hung up 160 children. If she doesn't make a message, they're never going to respect her. If she doesn't send a message, they're never going to respect her. So was that ruthless? Yes. Was it 100% completely necessary to kill like 160 of them? Maybe not. Did it send a very clear message that child murder is unacceptable in Meereen from now on? Absolutely. Did it send a message that you don't mess with Daenerys? Absolutely. So even though they still messed with her, but it sent a message that she was not to be trifled with, and that needed to happen. It's not like she just did it. It's not like she's going mad queen, ripping out tongues just for disagreeing with her or something. It's not like she's doing crazy sadistic things. She's terrorizing the wise masters because they're actively conspiring against her, actively trying to kill her, actively trying to restart the slave trade. Yeah, get eaten by a dragon. You're a slaver. Yeah, you get eaten by a dragon. I have no sympathy for a slaver getting eaten by a dragon. Why should a system that's built on the backs of slaves be allowed to continue? All right, so thanks everyone that's been watching so far. If you've been enjoying the stream, click the like button. That always helps out. And please, please, please check out my graphic novel Tadia. Currently backing. We just got a few new backers. Thanks guys so much. We're up there. We're getting way up there. We got 426 backers so far. We're doing killing. It is only our second day, and we are still on the front page of Indiegogo. We shot right up to the front page. Epic, epic, epic. Thank you guys so much. Ray Riddle. Thanks so much for being a member, by the way, Ray. I really do hope someday they will do a Song of Ice and Fire animated and be more faithful to the books the second time around. You know, I've been saying that since like season 4, right? I've been saying like, yeah, they should really get on that animated thing in like 10 years. Honestly, I don't care about the spinoffs, the live action stuff. Give me an animated version of a Song of Ice and Fire, and I will buy all of it. Give it to me, and just do the book. Just do the freaking book, right? Just make it animated, but do the book. Really great animation, and just do it, and that would be awesome because you'd be able to include everything. There's no excuse with animation not to include like epic magical scenes and do all that stuff because it's animation, and you can do all of it because it's drawn, it's animated. So that's awesome, awesome, awesome. And I hope they do a Song of Ice and Fire. That'd be so epic. Lisa Minari, thanks again. Thanks for all the super chats you've been leaving, by the way. Thanks so much. And by the way, it's great, everyone that's been leaving super chats and hitting up the PayPal link in the description. It's great that you guys are showing so much support for the campaign as well. Like I said, you can get a ebook copy of Tadia for just $10 and a paperback for $15, signed paperback for $30, hardcover $50, signed hardcover for $75. And there's all sorts of bundle deals as well. But yeah, thanks, guys. Okay, so what else we got? Sansa. Let's skip Sansa since we talked about Sansa and Arya a little bit in that last video. Let's talk about Ramsay. Let's talk about Ramsay Bolton. Jesus freaking Christ. Like, what in the heck was that all about, right? It's like, so first of all, we didn't need like 8 episodes of torture. Like, me and LML both agreed to this. So we did not need like 8 episodes of beyond torture. Like, it was way over the top. Like, who is enjoying watching these scenes at this point? But then other than that, Ramsay just consistently, gradually becomes more and more over the top. Like, the book version of Ramsay Bolton is scary. Like, that guy is eerie and scary, and it's like you just wouldn't want to be around him or just be in a room. I find the show version of Ramsay like a cartoon goofy villain. Right? He's like laughing while chasing you through the woods with his dogs, like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna kill you. Oh, it's your penis, but it's sausage. Wacky Ramsay. And it was like, what can we do to make him worse than Joffrey? Let's just make him worse than Joffrey. Ha 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 ha. And it's just stupid. He became such a damn cartoon. I hated it. But I mean, and then also like the dog eating scene at the end. Did we need that? I get it. We had to give Sansa her moment, but we wouldn't have needed to give Sansa that moment if you hadn't done the completely nonsensical plot line where Sansa marries him for no reason. Which, did they ever explain why Littlefinger's plan was to marry Sansa to Ramsay? What was the purpose of it? Nothing. So because they did that whole plot line for no reason, which isn't in the book at all, not even a little bit, because they did that, they had to give us this over the top death where he gets eaten alive by dogs, and it's just like, okay, whatever. Whatever. It's the Game of Thrones just turned into complete shenanigans, right? I would have preferred Jon Snow beat him to death. Like, that would have been cool if you really want to go for that visceral junk. Like, when Jon Snow was punching him in the yard, I was like, yeah, beat him to death. That was actually cool. When Jon Snow was pounding him in the face, I was like, yeah, just let the rage out, Jon. All the rage that you felt all this time, just let it out, Jon. Just let it out. That was cool. That would have been cool. Just beat him to death right there. We don't even get eaten by dogs. That was too much. And just in general, like every time he's on screen, he's too much. Like the whole thing with Rickon, like I said before, was just too much. Everything is just like cartoon. Oh, and I almost forgot about the scene where Theon's sister comes to rescue him. And then you've got Ramsay Bolton. You've got freaking Ramsay Bolton, shirtless, covered in blood with a sword. What? What? No, this is so stupid. No one is gonna. Oh my, he's fighting shirtless. Come on, guys. How stupid do you think your audience is? And then I love that scene too, right? Because like in the scene where like Asha, or what do they call her in the show? Yara is coming to save Theon, and then she fails. They don't even show how she escapes from like the basement or like the cells or wherever she is. Like it cuts and Ramsay shirtless is right there in the front with all of his men. And then it literally cuts back and she's on the boat again. And but like, how the fuck did you get from the boat from the cell to the boat? How'd you even get past them? And did you manage to like slice Ramsay's bare chest at least while you're fucking at it? Because he doesn't have any armor on. It's ridiculous. Oh my God, that was so stupid. But there's so many examples like that with Ramsay, and I could probably think of more and more and more. And also his stupid girlfriend, Miranda. What was her name? Miranda. Oh my God. It was so goofy. It was just so goofy. It was just beyond goofy. And that's not even saying that George R. Martin doesn't have humor. There is certainly parts of A Song of Ice and Fire where I'm like laughing my butt off. I'm like, yeah, that was like legitimately funny. But this is like camp, like in the worst way. I don't know. It's just not good. It's like, it's not thought out. That's the problem. It's goofy by virtue of being not thought out. And we've gotten several more backers now. You guys are killing it. You guys are killing it. Let's see if we can at least get to like 450 by midnight Eastern time. It's 11 Eastern time now. It's 11:20. But yeah, you guys are like just totally supporting the campaign. It's awesome. Like I said, you get that $10 digital copy, $15 paperback, $30 signed paperback, bundles and hardcover and signed hardcover. It's all there. It goes all the way up to the top tiers and stuff. And yeah, like I said too, I just want to give a shout out again to Trini Girl for getting like the first to be in the book tier. $1,000, not cheap. And someone also bought one of the original Matthew Weldon art pages, was amazing. 500 is not cheap. Thank you both. But Trini Girl, just really, really big shout out to you. You're one of my top supporters and always have been. But yeah, check out the book. All right, yeah, just back on the stupidity of Ramsay. Yeah, what else can be said about him? He's a cartoon. And then, want to know something funny about Ramsay? And we'll use this to segue into Euron a little bit. Because I heard someone say that the reason that Euron didn't become like super evil and murderous was because Ramsay was already super evil and murderous. I'm like, no, Ramsay was a cartoon. And I'm sorry, that book Euron is not just super evil and murderous. Like the book Euron is not like that at all. The book Euron is like an eldritch. Like he's trying to become like an eldritch god or something. This dude is like in tune with like dark blood magic and sorcery. He's like trying to like sail a sea of blood and like conjure things, possibly summon a kraken. He's got a dragon binder that has the power to like bind one of the dragons that if anybody blows this horn, they cook from the inside. Their insides turn to ashes. And it says upon the horn, I am Dragon Binder. No mortal man shall sound me and live. And it's apparently a horn all the way from old Valyria, where like the Valyrians used these horns to bind the dragons. And that's how they were able to control the dragons back in the day, apparently. And he also has like this sick, like armor that's like looks like dragon scales, but it's made out of Valyrian steel that has all these like glyphs on, like all these magical glyphs, and it's like enchanted armor. Like who knows what that does? Like so, Euron has spent like the last like more than a decade or however he's been like however long exactly he was still in the sea, like collecting magical artifacts, collecting magical people, like learning all this magical stuff, drinking Shade of the Evening. Like Euron is about to tap into like some deep, dark, eldritch, esoteric forces in the Song of Ice and Fire world. This is not the finger in the bum joke guy. That is not who this is. This is a real deal. Like Euron is so different to the point where a lot of us think that since there is no Night King figure in the show and in the book just of yet, that maybe it'll be Euron that actually unleashes the wrath of the others upon Westeros. And maybe it's Euron that unknowingly, through his own like thinking he can become a god, unwillingly becomes the vessel for something else, something that possesses him. And this is what the Night King, it could be something like that, because he is definitely, there's an interesting connotation to just some of the wording that he uses, right? When he's talking about Daenerys specifically, and he's talking to Victarion, and he says to Victarion in reference to Daenerys, because he's talking about children, having children. He says to his brother, no, my children, that's like those, the children that I have now are like the essence of like my chamber pot, basically. They're like, they're like what's in my chamber pot. He says, to make an heir that's worthy of him, I need a different woman, referring to Daenerys. And Daniel, you're about to get blocked. Please don't spam my chat. Oh, you're saying Mira Reed? Yes. What about Mira Reed? Yeah, to make an heir that's worthy of him. So when he's saying him, it sounds like he's talking about himself, and he could just simply be referring to himself, like becoming a god, wanting to become a god, his apotheosis, or he could be talking about something else, and it's not exactly clear. And that's the beauty of George R. Martin's writing. But I think it's most likely both. I could see Euron taking in something, some essence, absorbing something magically, and it's not what he thought it was. He thought it would be something that he could bend, but this is something eldritch, something ancient, something that's beyond you. So Euron could facilitate great devastation. Like when Moqorro is looking into the flames and he tells Tyrion what the vision is, he says, I see many in my flames, but one of them most of all. And he's talking about Euron when he says this. He says, one black eye, 1,000 arms, sailing a sea of blood. Right? So he sees all these crazy things, but one most of all, Euron. So what does that tell you? That tells you all you need to know about Euron's impact. And I just went on a tangent about Book Euron because I can't stress enough how different that character is. And I cannot stress enough how much an abomination that is in the show, what they did to that dude. It's like, if you've read A Song of Ice and Fire, and then you go back and you like the character Euron, I don't even see how you can even get behind that dude. I mean, sure, the actor is a cool dude, whatever, but like, no thanks. No thanks. So bad. So bad. I agree. Quinn's Ideas. Everyone talks about how great you are. You haven't put out any original A Song of Ice and Fire, anything without LML. More to the point, you only want to dwell on negatives. That's such a huge turnoff. Ron, damn it, you stupid ass motherfucker. I have been putting out A Song of Ice and Fire theory videos for years on this channel. In fact, I'm one of the original A Song of Ice and Fire YouTube creators, and I've been one of the biggest one consistently for years. So you can check my playlist. You can check my channel. I have a Song of Ice and Fire videos with hundreds of thousands of views going back more than 4 years, right? So not to toot my own horn, but fuck you. And you're blocked. I have no time for that type of negativity in my stream. I mean, I let people walk all over me sometimes and try to minimize what I've done. But like, you're not about to come out here and tell me and try to minimize what I've done in the Song of Ice and Fire community. I'm just not about to let you do that, sweetie. Sorry. Yeah, no. You're not about to come in here and start talking. Come correct, as they say. You're not about to come in here and come correct. You got to come correct. You got to come correct. And I'm negative about Game of Thrones because it sucks. And I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. But look, the last 3 seasons of Game of Thrones are damn near unwatchable. And I'm sorry that hurts your feelings to have someone tell you that, right? You know, this is a community of A Song of Ice and Fire readers. And that's what we've always been here on the Quinn's Ideas channel that used to be the Ideas of Ice and Fire channel. So we are very passionate about these books here, right? And we always have been, right? And when we see hacks like D&D not respecting our series and crapping all over it, we get angry. So yeah. But yeah, thanks for your opinion. But yeah, I don't need it. But yeah, guys, what you should totally do, though, what you guys totally should do is check out Tadia. We just launched yesterday, and we're at over 18 grand after just 1 day of doing this, and I'm so happy about it. You can get a digital copy, paperback $15, and signed paperback copy. All the tiers are up. Links are in the description. You guys can check it out. And there is I talked about the influences a little bit. There is some George R. Martin influence too. And also I talked about Frank Herbert. Totally the Bene Gesserit were one of the influences for the Coven here, the Daughters of Hecate for sure. Who is the publishing company for Tadia? There is no publishing company. That's the thing about Indiegogo. It's independent. So we send these books out to the printers ourselves. It's all done ourselves. So it's me, Matthew Weldon, and we've got some other people helping us with the campaign. It's very, very exciting. And it's happening. It's happening. As you can see here, we already hit our stretch goal. We hit our stretch goal in like the first 24 hours. So like, yeah, this is 36 hours in. We hit our stretch goal in the first 24 hours. Like, so that is impressive. So already everybody that's ordered anything, everybody that's ordered the book gets one of these free bookmarks. And like the more stretch goals we get, the better the book becomes. We can get like better binding, thicker pages, more art in the book. And all of this is dependent on like how many people back. So like once you back, the book gets better and better and better and better depending on how many people back, and nobody has to pay any extra. So let's say you get like a $15 paperback copy. You might end up with like a super awesome book with like thick pages and all this extra stuff for only $15 just because you shared it and you got your friends to get it and you got more people to back. So that's the beauty of crowdfunding. That's what's so amazing about crowdfunding. It's because it's really like the crowd. We are doing this together, guys. We are releasing this together. And it's so exciting. And I'm so happy that you guys, my real supporters, my real fans that have been here for so long are doing this with me and coming through with me. It's just like, I am so happy every single day that I get to do this. And you guys have no idea. Yesterday, I was brought to tears by the amount of support that I was getting for Tadia. I had no idea if anybody was going to want to read this or support it or even look at it. And it's just like the fact that you guys have come out in droves and made Tadia like the #1 campaign on Indiegogo. And it's like crazy. We're like the #1 comic right now. It's like nobody's touching us. We're doing so good. We're just killing it. This is coming from you guys. This is coming from you guys. So just thanks for that. I just had to say that. Thanks for that. And thanks everyone that is back so far. Like I said, low price points because I wanted everybody to just be able to read it. Okay. So someone said, I don't think a prequel will be that interesting, to be honest, to Game of Thrones. See, that's the thing. When George R. Martin is writing, like Fire and Blood is so good because it's a book and it's George R. Martin. But like a prequel to the show, yeah, I'm iffy. I'm so iffy because I feel like anything HBO at this point, in my opinion, this is what I think. So I'm not guaranteed on this, but I think anything with HBO, it's just gonna be like, let's try to hit all the same beats as Game of Thrones. It's gonna be let's do Game of Thrones 2, basically. And so that's the fear that I essentially have, that it's just gonna be like more of the same, that they aren't gonna really like change much of anything. That it'll be the same type of deal, and just I don't know. I don't need more. I mean, it's been 10 years of that. I'm kind of ready. I'm kind of like done with the Game of Thrones show. You know, I will always be a George R. R. Martin fan, obviously, because George R. R. Martin, I truly believe, is like one of the greatest fantasy writers that's alive right now. So just like, and we have to treasure him. Greens openly said it'll at least be less plot holes. That'll see, you know, the big double thumbs up that it has is that no D&D. That is the best thing that's from it. But I feel like just in general, Game of Thrones has killed my excitement for just like HBO shows in general. I don't know. I kind of just like want to shy away from it. Let's see. What would your thoughts on what would your thoughts be on a prequel film, maybe based around Dunk and Egg? That could be interesting. Like a film about Dunk and Egg that's like kind of like maybe a little bit lighter, not so just like a little like add a little bit more charm to. If you got the right writer on that, I think that could be really interesting. Like the lady that was going to do The Long Night, I think, that did Stardust, I think would actually be cool for a Dunk and Egg thing. That's why also when I found out she was doing The Long Night, I was kind of like, is she the right person to do this one? But like a Dunk and Egg thing where it's kind of like, you know, a little bit more fun, a little bit less dark, then yeah, totally. That'd be cool. Dunk and Egg movie, I'm down for that. I'm down for like a Dunk and Egg cartoon, honestly. I'll take that. That'd be super neat, I think. Be neato. Stephen Hart says the series would have to be finished first. That is true. Dunk and Egg is also not finished. Blacklist Universe said George won't do Dunk and Egg until he's done with the series. So yeah, which makes sense. Nexus says the show screwed us all. Indeed, it did. Let's see. Who are we just talking about before we got off on that? Oh, yeah. So we just needed to talk about Bran. So we're going to talk about Bran for a while before we close out the stream. Let's talk about Bran. let me start off with a deep sigh. God damn it. Bran sucks. Why'd you have to make Bran suck? Right? I told all my friends that Bran was going to be super cool. I told everybody that. Just wait, guys. Wait till it gets going. The Bran storyline's going to be so cool. Wait till you see this, that, and that. It's going to be so cool. Wait till you see the Children's Forest. It's going to be so cool. And it was kind of cool for a little bit when they first showed like the redone Children of the Forest. I was like, wow, they look good. But then they were only in like 3 episodes. And then, so if you take the whole Bran storyline just as a whole, it's incredibly boring in the show, and you end up not connecting to Bran. Who here relates to Bran? Hands up. Put a hand up if you relate to Bran as a character at all by the end of the story. No one does. No, I know you don't have to say you don't, because you can't. He's not a character. He's not even a person, right? It's like Paul becomes the Kwisatz Haderach, but he's in Dune, but he's still a person and a character. Damn, Leto II like absorbs, like he's got all of humans' memories, but he's way more interesting than Bran in every single way imaginable. He's an actual character. But like they have no idea how to write a magical character. They have no idea. I don't even think they really understood how Bran's power worked or what he could even do. So so many examples of this. Like let's say like during the Long Night, when we think Bran has to do something awesome. Bran is the most powerful warg skin changer in the world. He is about to do something epic. He is about to like take over fucking Drogon or something and like attack the Night King. We had so many amazing ideas in our mind about what Bran was going to do. Like it was like, but then he just wargs into ravens. I'm going now. And it's the entire episode. And then he's king. Yeah, boring. Boring. Someone says not Mirror. What about Mirror? Mirror sucks. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, like Mirror was never they never put any effort into Mirror at all. And then like right at the end, they're just like, he's like, okay, bye. And then she goes, and then we never see her again. So yeah, Mirror it's another one of those ones where it's like Mirror is another example of a character where it's like gradually all the steam got let out. So it's just like another one where it's just like it does get kind of like tedious to talk about and kind of like annoying to talk about because it's just like every character is just like, oh, they used to be cool. Oh, but they kind of got bad. Oh, they used to be so cool. Remember they did this? But yeah, they totally did this totally also really, really inconsistent thing as well. So that kind of craps on it too. So yeah, it's just sad, man. Like it's like you think that Bran is gonna have this epic, magical, climactic finale where he's like fighting the Night King on the astral plane or something. Because like, guys, my wish, I held on it. I did a video about this, like right after that episode, just holding on to hope that maybe they weren't gonna fuck us over like that and just kill the Night King like that and have Bran do nothing. I was like saying, what is it a secret? Bran was maybe helping the Night King somehow. I was like, is the Night King not dead and he's in the werewood net? And the next episode we're gonna have like Bran warg into the werewood net and like fight the Night King on the astral plane. And it's like, is that gonna happen? Please give me anything. Give me anything. Please, just literally fucking anything. And it was nothing. He warged the ravens. And then he was king. And then maybe he's going to go find Drogon later on. I mean, if you just look at the story like that, the story reads as like Bran just manipulated everybody and took over everything. Like if you look at it just like that, Bran, possessed by the spirits of the Green Seers, took over everything. I mean, because like that could follow. Let me tell you how you could make this work. Like in the book, you got the Children of the Forest, and you got like Bloodraven. He's on the Green Seer throne. Why is there a man on the Green Seer throne? Why is there a human on the Green Seer throne? It doesn't make sense. It makes sense if you consider the fact that there aren't a lot of Children of the Forest. It makes sense if you consider the fact that they've always had not that many Green Seers. It's like 1 in 1,000. So if their numbers dwindled and got diluted significantly enough, they would need a human Green Seer to sit the werewood throne so they could utilize that power. But how could they control that person? They would have to move one of the children minds into that person. So I had this working theory that Bloodraven wasn't actually Bloodraven, that he was like actually the possessed body of like the last Green Seer, as in the last Green Seer of the Children of the Forest, which would follow because George R. Martin is setting up throughout Dance this abomination, possession. He's talking about that throughout the book. Possession, abomination, that is a thing. And I did a video about that. So it is possible that what actually happened was what they were going for but didn't understand is that when Bloodraven says, it is time for you to become me, what he means is it's time for me to put all of this Green Seer consciousness that's been passed down throughout the Children of the Forest into you now. And now you are the one that is possessed because they try to do it because he says like, I'm not just Bran anymore. There's so much else here with me, but they just did not know what they were doing. They didn't fully get it. They didn't understand it. All right. So yeah, they just didn't get it. They just didn't get it. And just what they didn't get it, didn't care, don't care about fantasy, don't respect it. And that's what it really, really boils down to ultimately. Don't respect fantasy. And a character like Bran, whose like storyline hinges upon magic. That's the point of him. Bran is the wizard kid character, the Green Seer guy. His story hinges upon the fact that he has this power. Like, so what is the purpose of Bran being the most powerful skin changer that's maybe ever lived? It's not clear. Certainly the most powerful one of the modern era, what is the purpose of that if all he does at the end of the battle is warg a bunch of ravens? Like, and they tried to do this thing where it's like, oh, Bran is the memories of man. If Bran dies, then we forget everything. What? It's not like humankind stops existing. There have been points in like real history where people have been like diluted down to like very small numbers, and we've lost a lot of history, but we keep going. So like what? The White Walkers just wanted to delete our browser history? Is that what it is? The White Walkers wanted to delete our browser history. Well, thanks, White Walkers. Thanks. You know, thanks for what? Make any goddamn sense. Ugh. Yeah. So guys, last thing before we go, that's Bran. What else can we say about him? He sucked. God, man. And it's the potential for all of these characters. Someone like me that loves fantasy so much, I was just like waiting for Bran to do something epic and just like awesome. Something that was a little bit more cerebral and out there and like weird. I did a video before the season aired about like the weird ending of Game of Thrones, I called it. I said in order for Game of Thrones to work, it needs to have like a weird ass ending. It's got to be different. It can't be like this generic shit where we just kill the Night King and all the rest of them die like vampires. We can't do that. It's got to be weird. It's got to be cool. But it wasn't. And it sucked. So before I go, guys, thanks everyone that has signed up for Tadia. Thanks everyone that has backed the campaign. Let's see if we got more backers since I last refreshed the page. I bet we probably have. You guys are awesome. We have. We've gotten 2 more backers since I last refreshed. Guys, we are doing so good in just 36 hours. We've got 10 of the early bird special claimed. We've got a bunch of digital copies claimed. We've got like more than 100, like 114 regular paperbacks claimed. We've got like almost 100 signed paperbacks claimed. We got like some of the bundles claimed. 7 of all 3 paperback hardcovers claimed. All 3 paperback covers claimed. We got 7 of those claimed. We've got more hardbacks in this, but I forgot to update this and it's weird. So like good amount of hardcovers, regulars claimed. We've got 57 signed hardcovers claimed. You guys are amazing. I mean, even like, yeah, 2 of these big bundles claimed so far. Yeah, man. I think we've only got a few of these ones claimed because this one's 200. And like the early bird special is actually a much better deal because you get like the digital version and the audio version and the metal prints for only like 250. So it's just like $50 more and you get like a lot more rather than just getting that. But the early bird special, there's a very limited number of those. So those are going to be like out. So if you want that one, you got to go ahead and get it. Otherwise, you're going to have to get the metal prints at some other time. And then, of course, like the expensive tiers, of course, we've had one person get one of the original art pages, and that comes with like everything too. It comes with like a digital copy, signed hardcover, paperback copy, Tadia metal print, digital audio script, and the page. And then the Be in the Book tier also comes with all that, except the Be in the Book tier is a little bit more badass because it's got the digital copy, hardcover copy, and then also a signed hardcover copy. So you could get like the signed hardcover of like the variant that you really wanted. And then you get like another hardcover of another one. Because as you can see, we've got 3 freaking variants here. We've got 3 variants. Yeah, we've got 3 variants. Go back. We've got 3 variant covers. Kane and White. The Kane and White one is just amazing. But I'm kind of partial to the Matthew Walden one because it's like got the wraparound cover and they're all the same price. There's no like difference in price. So the Walden one has that wraparound cover, which is like crazy. It's so good. And then you got the Mike Miller one, which is like the very beautiful portrait of Tadia, right? So you can go check out the campaign. And like I kept saying to you guys in the last stream, like if you can't afford to back the campaign, even like the lower tiers, don't even worry about it for a second. I would never ask anybody to like buy my book if like you're struggling or you're like if you gotta eat. I totally get that. But like one thing that you can do to support it is just like go to the trailer, like the trailer on my channel, comment, please share it everywhere, Twitter, Facebook, on any like group or page that you possibly can, like any nerd group that you're a part of. Share it, bug your friends about it, anyone that you think would be interested in a graphic novel, in a comic about like this cool witch story. I'll read the synopsis real quick. Tadia is the story of a young girl born into a noble family, but also into the hands of a manipulative coven, with darkness as their cover. The witches conjured their dark works and brought forth Tadia. But will Tadia be theirs to bend to their will, or have they unknowingly, through their own hubris, unleashed something upon the world which will finally fracture the delicate balance that they have tried desperately for centuries to maintain? So it's pretty dramatic right there. So yeah. And then here we've got like, so Tadia Exordium. Tadia is the story of Tadia's beginning, of her strange birth orchestrated at the hands of the mysterious coven leader Mother Silas. In Eldon, where Tadia has lived her first 16 years, shadows move amongst the villagers. Many are missing, many are dead, and Eldon is alive with stories of demons and sorcery. So yeah, that is Tadia. It is available for pre-sale right now. We have been the #1 campaign on Indiegogo, or at least we've gone from #1 to like #2 a little bit today, back and forth, but like we've been like up and down like all day. We were #1 all day tomorrow. All day yesterday, hopefully tomorrow as well. But we were #1 all day yesterday through the launch on all of Indiegogo campaign. And no, Tadia does not have any bad pussy. All the pussy's good. You don't got to worry about that. Game of Thrones reference, of course. So yeah, Tadia will always be my queen, says Peter Griffin. Thanks so much. Mine too. But anyways, thanks to everyone that's backed. Like I said, you can get in there if you want to support me. Low price points always. Digital copy 10, paperback 15. And then if you just want to throw in like the extra support, then you can go for the signed copies, or the hardcover for 50, or the signed hardcover for 75. And then if you just got money like that, then you can consider all the other stuff. But I don't expect like people to be like buying those in droves or anything. But yeah, like I said, if you want good pussy and good storylines, Tadia is where you go. And thanks everybody for backing. We just had another backer. You guys are so amazing and so awesome. Share, share, share. Thanks everybody for watching. Peace out, guys. This live stream, I'll leave it up for 24 hours as always, and then it will go in the unlisted playlist on the front of this channel, as all of my live streams do. Peace out, guys. Thanks everyone that joined me. Get on Tadia, back it. The links are everywhere.